Shalom, everybody.
Wow.
Shalom. Everybody ready to exhale now? We ready to exhale? Okay. All right. Exhale. Let's exhale for the Lord. Now that we can have a little rest time. But not before we get into this word, man. We got some more history to talk about. We're going to follow up from our blessed feast of the destruction of Nicanor. Had a good time last night with everybody. Now we're on to Purim. Purim, another memorial of our ancestors and ordained that we keep from year to year with feast and gladness. And another story of history of the conquering of the Spirit of the Lord, the Lord's Spirit conquering our enemies. Let's put it that way. You know, we were facing genocide, extermination. And, if it wasn't for the righteous spirit and the guidance of, our beloved sister Esther, and the sacrifice that she made, for our nation, it could be a wrap for us, Through the instructions of her cousin Mordecai, a man of the Lord from the tribe of Benjamin, our nation was saved and preserved. All praise, honor, glory to the Most High, because it could have been bad for us, real bad. But, our beloved sister, man, put herself, her dignity, and her virtuousness on the line for our people. Let's open up in Deuteronomy. Let's cover a little history, and then we're gonna get right to it. Deuteronomy 28:64. Let's look and see how these curses are cyclical. It's not one particular time when we're reading about these curses. Some of the Christian apologists and those that try to back down and corner us into one particular area. No. These curses are repetitive and cyclical, man. It's a judgment that's always laid down. It's just like anybody that's a head of a household, and you lay down rules, and you lay down punishments and judgments for your children if they break the law. You don't keep changing them, or you don't try to do something different after the fact, or just say, "Oh, you finally broke that one rule. You're supposed to take out the trash. You get on punishment for 5 days, and it happens one time." No, these curses happen repetitively. Anytime that our people broke these laws, these were the things that would befall us. Okay, 28:64. Let's read that.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
So one of the curses that will befall our people is that we will be scattered among all people upon the earth, from one end of the earth unto the other. And during those times, we would end up following after the ways of the heathen, worshiping other gods, wood and stone. Didn't we just see that yesterday? As we were scattered amongst the kingdom of the Greeks, even though living still in Judea, in our own homeland, we weren't even scattered, but what? We were still worshiping wood and stone, following after wickedness. So it still held tight. Where were we scattered at during this time and period of history of Purim? Anyone? The Medo-Persian Empire. That's right. Let's go over to Daniel the 7th chapter. And we will understand and know that through the Spirit of the Lord and his judgments, and actually through this prophecy, we're going to see how the particular kingdoms that were prophesied in Daniel the 7th chapter, Daniel the 2nd chapter, Daniel 8, Daniel 11, these are all prophesied kingdoms that will be ruling the earth. And Daniel 7 gives a historical breakdown of 4 particular kingdoms that were relevant in world history and relevant to the children of Israel's history. All right, so let's read Daniel, and we'll start at verse 1, and we'll read down to I just want to get to the point. Daniel 1 and 2, and then drop down and read verse 5. We'll do a Daniel 7 lesson in the future, but for time's sake and just for understanding, let's get to Daniel 7.
Chapter 1.
Daniel 7 and
1. Book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matter.
So Daniel received a vision. He's receiving an understanding of what's going to be happening in the future. This particular vision is going to be regarding uprisings of kingdoms that's to come to pass. Okay, so once he had that dream, he woke up, wrote them down. Go ahead.
Verse 2, Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea.
So you can write down Revelation 17:15. The great sea is speaking about the nations, the four winds, in second Ezra. You know what? Let's go there. Write down Revelation 17:15. It tells you that the seas are peoples and nations, right? Now, second Ezra 13, we're gonna read let me see. 13 and let's read 1 down to 3.
Book of Second Ezra, chapter 13, verse 1.
And when we read the four winds, there's various contexts that it happens. The Most High will say that He would scatter us throughout the four winds of the earth. That means the four corners of the earth. That would be in particular places that we would be scattered from. In this particular context, these four winds are talking about these four armies, these four kingdoms, and they're striving upon the nations. They're striving amongst and having wars amongst themselves for power. But let's get this precept in 2 Ezra 13. Let's read 1 down to 3.
And it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night.
Look at Ezra getting dreams now. The Most High is constantly showing dreams to the prophets and the men of old, the ancient men of old, revealing understanding of history and prophecy through them. Go ahead.
And lo, there arose a wind from the sea that it moved all the waves thereof.
Go ahead.
And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven.
Now, see, it said that there was a wind from the sea, and then it made mention that this wind was actually a man. So hold on, give me Hosea 12 and 10. Hosea 12 and 10. So we can make sure we're seeing and understanding these similitudes. Go ahead and read that.
Book of Hosea, chapter 12, verse 10.
Mm-hmm.
I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions, and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets.
Now we see that Hosea is clearly precepting and helping us understand how do we read and understand these prophets. He said he's going to multiply their visions. So we just got to see, and Daniel was receiving a vision. Ezra was receiving a vision. They're both sleeping. They're both receiving visions and understanding from the Most High. They're documenting and writing it down. And it said that in those visions, they may not be as clear as day for the average Joe Schmo like me and everybody else. So he said that they would be written in similitudes. A similitude is like a metaphor, or a similitude is like replacement understanding. You know, when you're utilizing an object to say that it's describing something else. So, you know, for instance, when the Most High said that the chariots were like the clouds. Well, the chariot obviously would be a form of transportation that moved like a cloud. So that's what a similitude is. So now if we get back over to 2 Ezra 13 and read verse 3 again.
Verse 3, and I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven.
So everybody follow that? When it said before, it said there was a wind that rose from the sea and moved on all the waves. And then it said that wind was a man. So now we see how the Most High is making references to these winds. Okay, go ahead.
That man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him.
All right. And then if you read further down, it talks about four winds and these four, armies and kingdoms that's going to be trying to fight against Yahweh Shai. But let's go back over to Daniel 7. That's another thing. I don't want to get anybody too far gone or too far lost on this. So let's read Daniel 7 in the second verse one more time.
Look at Daniel 7, verse 2. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my visions by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea.
Right. So we're seeing here, these four winds of these four kingdoms are striving upon the great sea. They're striving for dominance of the people. Okay. Drop down and you can read verse 5, and we're going to read about this second beast.
Verse 5, and behold, another beast.
Actually, Shalaki, can you read verse 3?
Verse 3. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another.
Okay, so Now, these four beasts that he's going to go over in Daniel the 7th chapter are four particular kingdoms. And he said they're all going to be diverse, one from another. They all got distinctive characteristics about them. They all had distinctive ways in how they were ruling. Um, and through these similitudes of understanding in this chapter is going to give us a reasoning on how we come to the conclusion that these are four kingdoms. He actually even tells us later on in the chapter that these four beasts are actually four kingdoms. So these four great beasts, they came up from the sea, they came up from the nations, and they were diverse one from another. Okay. You might as well read verse 4. Let's keep keep it together.
Yeah. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings.
Who's this one? What's this character? What kingdom is this? Anybody know?
Babylon.
Babylon. That's right. Babylon. That was the first kingdom. Now, if you know, they have they have an actual I forgot the name of the god. When I do the Daniel 7 class, we'll pull it up. But you'll see they have half man, half lion with wings as one of their gods. I forgot the name of the god though. Pardon me, but I remember in the next go round. But it lets it be known that that was one of the actual gods that they had. But it also shows you that the ferociousness and how they ruled, the strength in which they held the dominance, as we see even today, they still are following, and people are still following after Babylonian customs. Okay, and we see that they move with the swiftness of the eagle. Okay, go ahead.
I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man.
So this character, this particular beast was actually going to take the form and have the rulership of a man, which would be Nebuchadnezzar. He was going to be the initial ruler of the Babylonian kingdom. We'll get into more detail when I go into a lesson on Daniel 7 later. But let's get to the second beast. Verse 5.
Verse 5. Mm-hmm. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side. And it had three ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and they said thus unto it.
So this next this next beast, ferocious, big like a bear, powerful in its nature, right? And it said it raised itself up on one side. Why did it raise itself up on one side? Is because one side was more dominant than the other. Between the Persians and the Mede Empire, the Persians were more dominant than the Mede Empire. The Persians ended up taking the actual lead. Jump over to let me see that. Daniel 8. Daniel 8. Daniel 8 and start at verse 3.
Book of Daniel 8 verse 3. Mm-hmm. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns, and the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last.
So the one that was higher is the Persian Empire. The two horns represent the Persian and the Mede Empire. That Persian, the higher horn is what made that bear lean to the side. So there was an imbalance of power. Persians actually were the more powerful of the two. Jump over and let's read Daniel 5 and read verse 28 so we can get it clear. Go ahead.
Are they from the same nation?
Yeah.
Okay, so
you got
like Ukraine.
Yeah, exactly. So you got two in their tribal, factions. Medes and the Persians, they both come from Elam, but the Persians actually were the stronger of the two. So when you're talking about the bear is leaning on one side, it's imbalanced. The bigger horn was the Persians, and then it had three ribs in its mouth, and we'll talk about the three ribs in a minute. But through Daniel's vision, Daniel is actually going to tell us who they were. In verse 28, Daniel 5 and verse 28.
Verse 28, Perez, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians.
So this was the vision that they saw the writing on the wall. And Nebuchadnezzar asked Daniel what the writing meant. And he was explaining to him that meant that, it was not Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar. They had the writing on the wall. Daniel had to interpret it, and he was letting it be known that your kingdom is over with. The Persians and the Medes is going to take over. So he had to give them the bad news. that the end of the Babylonian Empire was upon him, and he was going to be conquered by Darius the Mede, and the Persian and the Mede Empire will be the next ones up. Okay, so let's jump back over to Daniel 7 and the 5th verse.
Daniel 7, verse 5. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it.
So the 3 ribs that was in his teeth were Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt. These were the 3 kingdoms that they had to conquer and overcome in order to maintain their power and their rule. Okay, read on.
And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh.
And they went about conquering and destroying in order to maintain their rule. All right. So let's get to Esther. Esther chapter 1. So now we're seeing the particular kingdom that we're in. We're in the kingdom where the bear is ruling, the 3 ribs is in the mouth, the Persians and the Medes are in control. And here we are during the time of Esther. Okay. You can start at chapter 1, verse 1.
Book of Esther, chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 127 provinces.
So this is key too, because this also gives you an understanding regarding how big the Persian Empire was. If y'all seen any of the DSTMs I've been doing of late, it's shown in Ezekiel 38, where it says that Persia, Ethiopia was going to be in league with Gog and Magog, meaning Russia. When I showed a map about how big the Persian Empire was, it's not just Iran, it's including everywhere from India all the way to Ethiopia, because also in Ezekiel 38 it mentions Ethiopia. So when we're looking at it, this is a huge amount of land that they were conquering. So if you look on a map, you look from India all the way to Ethiopia, that was all the Persian Empire. Okay. And now it said 127 provinces that they were in charge of, that they oversaw. They had their vassal kings over there, princes and whatnot, ruling in their particular areas. Now, Ahasuerus, historically, it depends on your sources, but I know in the Septuagint they say that this was Artaxerxes, and if you look at it from the movies, I don't know if it's how accurate it is, but it's very possible. But yeah, what's he say? Yeah, Xerxes, like that movie 300.
Yeah.
And that would have been the time of this particular empire when they went up against Leonidas and the Greeks and got destroyed, or a vast amount of them got destroyed. So you're talking around 486 BCE. Okay, Ahasuerus was there, and he ruled for 21 years. So this is the time frame, just to kind of give everybody a visual to kind of think about the time and what's going on. Read on.
Verse 2, that in those days, when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces being before him. When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellence, majesty many days, even 180 days. And when these days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan, the palace.
So Ahasuerus or Artaxerxes, he's out here really flossing. 3rd year in, he's like, things is beautiful, everything's great, everybody's partying. Long time they having a big old party that's going on. A feast unto all his princes and his servants. So, he included everybody, the nobles, the princes, all the provinces. So imagine from India all the way to Ethiopia, everybody is involved in this whole celebration in honor of the king and his royal feast. Okay. They said, and it was for 180 days, 180 days.
big party.
Can you imagine? They turning up for 180 days from India to Ethiopia. Wherever you go, it's lit. Go ahead.
Both unto great and small. 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace.
So they was getting on 7 days. Go drop down to read verse 9.
Verse 9. Also Vashti, the queen, made a feast for the women in the royal house, which belonged to King Ahasuerus.
So, in the previous verse, they said that, they were starting to drink as normal, turning up. And they said that everybody was drinking according to their pleasure, doing what they wanted to do. And the queen, she said, "Well, I'm gonna have my own party for me and my girls." Now, that went against what the king was saying. He's saying, "Look, we're all partying together, but you having a separate party. Okay, go ahead."
Verse 10.
Mm-hmm.
On the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Biztha, Harbonah, Bigtha, and Abagtha, Zethar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king.
So, he was feeling good. Turned up a little bit. He said he was merry with the wine. He said, "Hey, man, go get my wife. I want to see my wife, and I want all of y'all to see my wife. I want to see everybody, see the splendor of the queen. I want her out here partying with me." Go ahead.
Verse 11. To bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal.
So they drinking whiskey, they got
the crown royal.
They got the suede cases. Everybody got the bags on them.
To show the people and the princess her beauty, for she was fair to look on.
Right. So here they go. He's turned up, feeling tipsy, and he wants to show off the beauty of his queen. Now whether it was a matter of she didn't want, some of these little his commentaries, and he might saying that he wanted to parade her around naked, so everybody can see. I don't believe that was the case, but he wanted to show off. Hey, this is my queen. Everybody, bow down, honor my queen. Look how bad she is, so forth and so on. And she didn't want to be paraded around and looked at as a trophy, I guess. Read verse 12.
But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him.
Okay, so now we got a problem, because here it is that she was summoned and now she refused. Remember, she's partying with her girls. So who knows what she said? Tell him I ain't going. F that. I'm over here turning over my girl. I don't care what he said. Now it's a big old problem, right? Drop down, read verse 15 down to 18.
Verse 15. What shall we do unto the queen, Vashti, according to law? Because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains. And Memucan answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to all the people that are in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes when it shall be reported. The king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not.
Okay, so now we see that there's a big old problem. Go to 1 Samuel 15:23. This is relevant for Israel in particular. Why is it relevant? Because we see here, the men in the courts, they acknowledged and they said, look, this is going to be a problem. If your wife and your queen is not in order and she's out here acting a damn fool, that's going to influence the rest of our women to do the same. You're going to have a big problem on your hands, and it's going to have problems throughout the kingdom. Okay, read that 1 Samuel 15:23.
1 Samuel 15:23. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry.
You see how the Most High looks at that? That goes for all of us. So the Most High said that if we look at that just as a principle, because you know what? That happened throughout the annals of time, my time in Israel, that happens a lot. You know, sisters go over each other's house. They looking to see what the sister ain't doing so that she can go back there. I was over such a time. She don't be doing that. You asking me to do that. Her husband, he washing the dishes. You know what I'm saying? The next thing you know, it's a whole problem. Now you over here trying to make excuses on why you don't want to be in subjection to what your husband wants because you looking at sister A, B, and C and comparing households, and then you running over here, and now it's all kind of rebellion going on. How many councils have we been in?
Oh man.
Well, it's like, are you trying to enhance? Are you trying to help build this sister's household up? You want to help her? What are you trying to do? Or are you looking for? She don't clean. I ain't cleaning. And next thing you know, it's a whole damn problem. She don't cook. Her husband cook everything. That's their household. The husband might be a professional chef, and that's what he does. If he say, "Look, I'll take care of the food. You do this, that, and the third," that's what they do. But you don't use that as ammunition to say, "Well, in such and such house, they don't do it that way." That becomes a big old problem. That's why the Lord said, and stubbornness is the big deal. That's what the Most High said. That's even a problem because here she was being stubborn. He said, "And how many men? How many men? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He can't a complete amount of men. All of them came in there. Come on, Queen, come on, Basti, come on. I ain't going. Hell no. Well, you know. And she was completely rebellious and didn't want to do it. So they knew that it was going to be a problem after that. Jump over to Proverbs. They knew it was going to be a problem that was going to spread throughout the kingdom. So judgment had to happen. Jump over to Proverbs 19 and the 12th verse.
They say a big stink.
A big stink, huh? A big old stink.
Right.
And that's what they call.
Yeah.
No offense, sisters, but I'll be saying you got that stank attitude. Yeah. For real. Go ahead and read that in Proverbs 19:12.
Look at Proverbs 19 and verse 12. The king's wrath is as the roaring of a lion.
You see that? So when it comes down to the wrath of the king, it said it's going to come down hard. That's why he, we'll read it later on, but everybody who's already kind of familiar with it, he has strict policy. He said, man, you can't even come into the courts without permission. I'll put you to death. So this cat, Ahasuerus exerts, he wasn't playing. Now he's sitting back scratching his head saying, damn, she just embarrassed the hell out of me. Everybody's turned up. He said even the servants are sitting back watching because the servants was partying too. And they sat back and said, oh, he ain't got no power like that. She ain't in control. I mean, what's the scripture saying in what's the 2 Ezra 4? About which is more powerful, wine, women, or the king?
Yeah.
It says certainly the woman. She sit on his lap and take the crown off his head and pop it on her head and slap him in the face.
And he's ruling the whole kingdom.
He ruling the whole kingdom. He go out and kill men and destroy and pillage and all to bring it back to her. And she giggling, laughing on his lap, slapping. This is my crown. Go ahead and read that again.
The king's wrath is as the roaring of a lion.
Right.
But his favor is as dew upon the grass.
See, and that's what we're going to see in the understanding of this whole history and the story. Is that Esther learned how to get the favor of the king. He said it was sweetest. I mean, it was more like the dew on the grass, which only leads to prosperity. That dew helps what? Water, neuter, build up the grass, nurture the grass, brings more prosperity, brings more prosperity from the soil, more fruit. She learned how to get the favor, not the wrath. Vashti got the wrath. Let's jump back and pick it up at verse 15 down to 18.
Verse 15, what shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to the law, because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus?
Now they saying, look, we need to do something according to the law. So they had law that everybody needs to be obedient to the king. She broke law. Now they had to make way for it. Go ahead.
And Memucan answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes.
See, doesn't the scriptures even tell us in the law, it says that we're not to follow a multitude to do evil in Exodus 23? So it ain't about following the crowd, but that's just the nature of people, you know. If the Most High said that we're sheep is led to the slaughter, you know, we'll follow. And the heathen, they ain't no different. They looking, they was like, man, you ain't caused problems. She didn't just violate. She's going to violate everybody. Go ahead.
For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so they shall despise their husbands in their eyes when it shall be reported. The king of Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not.
And who knows what was going on with that little party she was having.
No kidding.
You know, I go when your sisters be getting together and want to sip and be talking that ish.
Yeah,
my husband, F him. I be sick of him when he be telling me this. A girl, mine too. Blah. All that's all bad news. I ain't saying sisters here be doing it or have done it, but I'm sure y'all might have been in them circles and just didn't say nothing and just sit back saying, these sisters be talking wild.
if the shoe fits.
Right. So they already had it in their mind, had a spirit on them. And they said, man, they was all partying together. If Ashley doing that, I already know when my wife get home, she gonna act a damn fool. So put down the smash down right now so we ain't got to deal with this. Go ahead.
Verse 18. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes, which have heard of the deed of the queen, thus shall there arise too much contempt.
He said it's going to be
wrath.
too much going on. Read verse 19.
If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she.
She was excommunicated and she was booted out and shamed. Jump over to, hold that and go to Habakkuk. Habakkuk 1 and 4. So she had to bear the shame of breaking the law and being rebellious to the king. All her crown jewels, everything that she had, her status and position, everything was stripped from her. And they said she was to be replaced. And you don't hear nothing about Vashti no more after that. Habakkuk 1 and verse 4.
Verse 4, therefore the law is slack, and judgment doth never go forth.
See what happened? If they didn't perform any judgment, it would have been all hell breaking loose over there in Persia and the Medes. From India all the way to Ethiopia. It would have been problems. Go ahead.
For the wicked doth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth.
And that's why, brothers have in congregations, camps, whatever, have to have order structure, have to have judgment, have to have things in order, because otherwise you're asking for trouble. You're asking for trouble if you don't have judgment in place. Go ahead and back to Esther and pick it up in chapter 2. So they had to do what they had to do in order to get order back into the kingdom. Okay. Chapter 2, read verse 1 down to 8.
Verse 1, after these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servant that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Haggai, the king's chamberlain, keeper of women, and let their things for purification be given them.
So now we're seeing a new, almost like a pageant is getting ready to happen for the king to find a new queen. And prior to the final judgment, also, I forgot to mention, the king put out a decree throughout his whole kingdom. It said that all wives were to give honor to their husband. It said both small and great. So he said, look, this is what happens to my wife, and sisters, y'all better start honoring your husbands. Whether they be great or small in my kingdom, they need to make sure that they're keeping order. So that's what he laid down. So now he's coming back and saying, It's time to find a new queen. Find me all of the young fair virgins that's throughout in the palace and in the house of all the women. And now it's getting ready to kind of be like a whole little pageant going on to bring forth the most qualified and beautiful woman in this particular kingdom. Go ahead and read.
Verse 4, and let the maiden which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he said so. Now, in Shushan, the palace there was a certain Jew, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite.
So here's Mordecai, Benjamite, tribe of Benjamin, man of the Lord, is recognized here in Shushan, the palace, in the main city, in the main province of the Persian and Mede Empire, where Xerxes was, or Ahasuerus. Go ahead.
Who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away.
Right. So here we see carried away. So he's part of this, the scattering that we read in Deuteronomy 28:64. After the captivity of Babylon, he gets transferred over to the Persians and the Medes. Isn't that cold, man?
Mm.
You go from one master to the next. That's hell for Israel. So here he goes from Babylon. Now he's over here, and then the Persians and the Medes he got to serve in this particular kingdom as well. Go ahead.
And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter.
So that also shows you how the lineage of order even works. If a sister doesn't have a father or a husband, the next of kin in the family of that man would be the one who would oversee her as a father figure. If the situation presented itself that she was to get married or whatnot, he would have to take on that role, and vouch for his daughter in righteousness. I don't mean Uncle Jerome, who still got the crack pipe in his back pocket and sipping a deuce. You supposed to give him the honors over you. No, that don't work that way.
Yeah.
You got a good and righteous man and elders in your congregations or camps. They can play that role, or they would have to assist in that role. But in righteousness and in the lineage, so her cousin Mordecai had to look over her since her father and her mother passed away. Go ahead.
Verse 8, so it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace, to the custody of Hegai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Hegai, keeper of the women.
Let me see if y'all paying attention. What's Esther's name? Oh, okay. All right. I was just making sure y'all awake. All right, go ahead.
And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him. And he speedily gave her things for purification, with such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens, which were meant to be given her out of the king's house. And he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women. Esther had not showed her people nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her.
All right. So remember, they're in a form of captivity. She had no choice. So if the decree was, I want all the fair virgins to come forth into my court, the best of the best, from India to Ethiopia, I want them here, and I want to be able to choose my next queen. Mordecai had to oversee and watch over her. He said, look, you ain't got no choice. I'm going to watch over you. I'm going to counsel you. I'm going to make sure that everything's good. I'm going to keep eye on you. So he went every day. When he had to leave, he had to go back, make sure she was good. They was talking. Drop down, read verse 15.
Verse 15. Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abigail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in unto the king, she required nothing but what Hegai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her.
Can you imagine? That's the beauty of our women in Israel.
Uh-huh.
You're talking about, again, when y'all get a chance, look at the map of the Persian Empire. From India's over here, Ethiopia's over here. Everything in between was their kingdom. And a woman in Israel, man, was the baddest of all of them.
Hmm.
It said everybody that seen her was like,
What?
dang, that woman of Israel, this woman of Israel. And they saying we seen them all, but none had them more captivated than her. I mean, that's why you see Esau, man, drooling all over our women as it is right now. They're constantly trying to chase after our women's looks now. I mean, which is kind of odd now because, you know, back in the day, the plastic surgery was for them trying to look like our sisters. You know, they want to get the lips and, you know, now the sisters is damn getting
reverse
BBLs and fake hips and lips and legs. It's crazy now.
Yeah.
They were used to chase our beauty, and now we're all confused trying to run from our own beauty to chase them and look even more different and more wild. Yeah. But now we're seeing Esther obtain favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her. Mm-hmm. So it said all of them, man, the servants, the women servants, the men, they was all like, man. And imagine, she's coming in as a damn servant. Uh-huh. She's in bondage. So this is at her lowest estate. And still exceeded the beauty of all the rest of these heathens. Go ahead.
Verse 16. So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus into his house royal in the 10th month, which is the month Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther above all the women. Mm-hmm. And she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins.
Now, didn't we just see that in Proverbs 19? So if you get the favor of the king, it's gonna be like dew on the grass. He was silly putty in her hand. Yeah. He said he loved her above all the women. Mm-hmm. So he said, man, I can have any woman in my kingdom. He said, but this one right here, man, I'll do it. That's that second Ezra 4. You know what I mean? So he's gonna give everything over. He said, you can have everything, even half the kingdom, Esther. Right. Just tell me what you want, please. What's that old comedian say? Baby, please, baby, please, baby. I forgot that comedian that joke. But read down to 17.
Verse 17, and the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head.
He said, the decision is made. I don't need to see nobody else. And they probably like, but sir, it's still 100 more. I don't give a damn. This is it. Go ahead.
And made her queen instead of Vashti.
So Vashti's replacement was made, and it was our sister Esther, right? Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Was that it?
That was it on 17.
Okay, cool. Read verse 18 as well.
Verse 18. Mm-hmm. Then the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast. And he made a release to the provinces and gave gifts according to the state of the king.
This is not Purim for first-time keepers. Don't think that this was the celebration. No, that was just him falling in love with Esther and doing whatever he could to try to please her. So he had a whole feast in her honor, giving gifts. Everybody was celebrating the fact that there was a new queen. But there's always a hater in the midst. Jump over to chapter 3. Mm-hmm. Always a hater in the midst. You know, Israel get a little victory. And this ain't even really a victory. As we're going to read in a minute, this was really punishment. Really? This is really punishment for our sister. Chapter 3, start 1.
Esther chapter 3, verse 1. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him.
So what nationality was Haman? Don't say a Agagite either. Amalek. Okay, can you prove that? They say he's an Amalekite. He's a fraud Jew.
Yeah.
A descendant of Esau. Mm-hmm. I give you that. At least at Genesis 36, it tell you that Amalek is one of the dukes of Esau or Edom. But if we saying he's at Amalek, okay. Man, crickets. Hello. All right, let me help y'all out. First Samuel 15:8.
Yeah, First Samuel.
Oh yeah. 1 Samuel 15. Let's read verse 8. We'll get right to it.
1 Samuel.
Read 7 and 8.
1 Samuel 15, verse 7. Verse 7. Verse 7. And Saul smote the Amalekites from Havilah until thou comest to Shur, that is over against Egypt. And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword.
So, y'all remember that? Saul was supposed to kill all the Amalekites, take nothing left. He spared Agag. So he came from a royal lineage. The Agagite, Haman. Okay, so he's an Amalekite, right? Now jump back over to verse 3.
Verse 3.
No, I'm sorry, verse 2.
Verse 2. All the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence.
See, he was like a vassal prince within the kingdom of the Persians and the Medes. They was allowing other nations to partake and be a part of their kingdom. Amalek and Esau or whatnot. Even in the editions of Esther, tell you that he was a Macedonian, or he came, from the areas of Greece, and that let you know also that he was an Edomite. But his direct lineage is through the seed of Amalek. Okay, so he's used to being treated royally. Remember, his great grandfather was a king, so now he's rose up in the ranks amongst the Persians and the Medes. He's walking around, and it was customary. Everybody would bow down and show him reverence. Mordecai the Jew said, hell no. That's idolatry. I'm not bowing down to no heathen. The only king that's over me is the Most High via Yahweh Shai. But, Yahweh Shai ain't been on the scene at this particular point. But he acknowledged that I'm bowing down to nobody else. Isn't that the law? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Nobody and nothing should have more power over you than the Most High. Mordecai said, no, I'm not doing that. Go ahead.
Verse 3. Then the king's servants, which were in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, why transgressest thou the king's commandment?
Now you see why your bosses and Slow Biden and all them were so mad because you wouldn't roll your sleeve up? Why are you being so difficult? It's a mandate, isn't it? Don't you want to keep it? Why are you not doing it? You're going to get in trouble. Everybody's up. And you're like, no, I'm not doing it. No, I'm not doing it. And now everybody hating on you. Everybody looking at you crazy. Everybody think you got something because you walk. Listen, that's the nature of Israel, man. We don't bow down to foolishness, wickedness, and we damn sure ain't bowing down to a commandment to praise man. That's not happening. So here's everybody else, all the king's servants. Everybody said, Mordecai, man, you tripping. You're supposed to bow down to Haman every time you see him. Read.
Verse 4. Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand. For he had told them that he was a Jew.
And Mordecai said, man, I'm an Israelite. I'm a Jew. Right. We don't do that. Yeah. That's not our customs. I don't know how you Amalekites and Persians get down. But no, we're not doing that. Go ahead.
And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath.
You black nigga, how dare you not bow down to me? Everybody shows me reverence. Everybody bows down. How dare you, nigga? Full of wrath. Yeah. Go ahead.
Verse 6, and he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone.
He said, man, I should take you around the corner, man. I'll lay hands on you myself.
Yeah.
Now, you know, he would have lost that one.
Big time, big time.
He lost that one. You're not messing with it. The way that the Benjamites was getting down during the time of Judges and others, Benjamin was holding their own against all of Israel.
Whooped him with one left hand.
He's a more decrepit, you know, Malachi gonna lay hands on Mordecai. But he obviously had second thoughts. He said, man, I wish I could lay hands on it, but no, I'm not gonna do that. I'd rather just put out this decree. Go ahead.
For they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai.
Right. So Haman said, you know what's be even better? Why punish one when I can get all of them?
Yeah.
If they all are following after this particular strange custom and this wicked, nature of not trying to bow down and show me reverence, I might as well get rid of all of them. Go ahead.
In the first month, that is the month Nisan, the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast Purim, that is the lot, before Haman from day to day, and from month to month to the 12th month, that is the month Adar.
So we see here in Nisan was the first month, also known as Abib in the Hebrew. They said that they cast lots. So cast lots is almost like drawing straws or rolling dice or whatever. So they were determining how long that they were going to this decree was going to be put into effect. So it said from the first month to the 12th month. So 11 months it took for the decree to be sent out. Everybody was going to have to abide by, or if it was approved, this was the plan. So in 11 months, they were going to go out and decree to kill all of the Jews. Go ahead.
Verse 8, and Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business, to bring it into the king's treasury.
So now he's laying down this whole diatribe about how wicked the children of Israel are, and how he's going to put out this bounty for everybody that kills our people. Jump over to the Apocrypha in the book of the rest of the books of Esther, and let's page 55 in your Apocrypha, and let's read chapter 13. You can start at 1 and read down to 7, and this gives a little bit more detail on how he felt and how he was looking at our people. 13 and 1, start at 1 down.
Book of Esther in the Apocrypha, chapter 13, verse 1. The copy of the letters was this: the great king Artaxerxes writeth these things to be princes and governors that are under him from India unto Ethiopia, in 127 provinces, and that I became Lord over many nations, and had dominion over the whole world, not lifted up with presumption of my authority, but carrying myself always with equity and mildness. I propose to settle my subjects continually in a quiet life, and making my kingdom peaceable and open for passage to the utmost coast, to renew peace, which is desired of all men.
So here's his decree. He's laying out this whole letter, and he's telling everybody, hey, you know what? I'm a man that's mild. I want equity. I just want to have peace. But I'm hearing word that there's some people that's causing problems. Go ahead.
Verse 3, now when I asked my counselors how this might be brought to pass, Haman,
that's meaning Haman, go ahead,
that excelled in wisdom among us, and was approved for the constant goodwill and steadfast fidelity, and had the honor of the second place in the kingdom, declared unto us that in all nations throughout the world there was scattered a certain malicious people that had laws contrary to all nations.
They said that here he is talking about the children of Israel saying we just malicious. Don't you get that label already now? You know, you guys are in a cult, you guys are racist, you guys are mean, and it's like all we doing is keeping the laws of God. What's the problem? And we just saying what God said. God said that He don't love everybody; He loves us. You got a problem with that? Take it up with God. You malicious little blacks and Hispanics, you niggas. So He said, now Haman gave me word that said in all these nations. I mean, there's a people who scattered throughout all these nations, and there's these malicious people, and they got laws that's contrary to all the nations. They got something that goes against what everybody else is supposed to be doing. They don't go along with the program. They don't follow suit with everybody else, what everybody else is doing. Go ahead.
That had laws contrary to all nations, and continually despised the commandment of kings, so as the uniting of our kingdoms honorably intended by us cannot go forward. Seeing then we understand that this people alone is continually in opposition unto all men.
We're always a problem. I mean, until we get our kingdom, we're gonna be a problem. Because we have to have things the way that the Most High laid it out for us. We can't be following after the ways of the nations. And they get mad at that. Go ahead.
Differing in the strange manner of their laws, and evil affected to our state, working all mischief they can.
So it said the strangest of our laws. Our laws say that we're not to commit adultery. We're not supposed to commit homosexuality. That's strange to them. They saying that, no, that's supposed to be acceptable. We don't eat unclean foods. We don't steal. We don't lie. We don't kill each other. That's strange. What were they doing in the world? Obviously, they wanted us to be involved in. Right. Everything that you see our people is into now, destroying ourselves. Go ahead.
That our kingdom may not be firmly established. Therefore have we commanded that all they that are signified in writing unto you by Amon, who is ordained over the affairs and is next unto us, shall all which their wives and children be utterly destroyed by the sword for their enemies, without all mercy and pity, the 14th day of the 12th month Adar of this present year, that they who of old and now also are malicious may in one day with violence go into the grave, and so ever hereafter cause our affairs to be well settled and without trouble.
So we see the decree that was put out. He said that they were to be killed with no mercy, no pity, and you can do it on the 14th day of the last month of the year. So 11 months we had to survive. That was all that we had left before the decree was set out and the bounties was on everybody's heads, and they was going to go out and start trying to kill us. We're going to come back to that. So keep that open. We're going to go back and read chapter 3 again and pick it up at verse 13 down to 15.
Book of Esther, chapter 3, verse 13. And the letters were sent by post into all kings' provinces to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews, both young and old, little children and women, in one day, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey.
So they were going to have no mercy on any of us. Women, children, didn't matter. As much as they run around talking about the kids and women getting killed over there in Ukraine, man, ain't nobody, shed no tears for our people. They did say, oh, that was in the past. And if that was in the Bible, well, we still got records throughout the times of slavery. We got records that shows all throughout the times of the destruction of the indigenous peoples here in the islands and in America and South America, Central America, so forth and so on. So give me a break. Give me a break. Read on.
Verse 14. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that they should be ready against that day. The post went out, being hastened by the king's commandment, and a decree was given in Shushan the palace. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city Shushan was perplexed.
So they're wondering, like, dang, King, we were just partying, everything was great. Now all of a sudden, we're about to all get put to death. And people are sitting back saying, oh, wow, the king is pissed off now. Somebody violated the law again. Who are these people? The Jews? Oh, the Jews is out. Uh-oh. It's about to be a problem. Jump back over to, we're going to skip over to chapter 14. We're going to go back over to the editions of Esther. So the word is out now. Esther and Mordecai, they have a council together. They got to come up with a plan on how can we avoid the destruction of our people. Start at verse 1.
Book of Esther in the Apocrypha, chapter 14, verse 1. Queen Esther also, being in fear of death, resorted unto the Lord, and laid away her glorious apparel, and put on the garments of anguish and mourning. And instead of precious ointment, she covered her head with ashes and dung, and she humbled her body greatly.
So this was a time of mourning now that we're seeing. So the decree has been put out. Esther now is in fear of not only her life, but her people's lives. Because now she's saying this is the time of great mourning for our people. Go ahead.
And all the places of her joy she filled with her torn hair. And she prayed unto the Lord Yahweh of Israel, saying, O my Lord, thou only art our king. Help me, desolate woman, which have no helper but thee.
Listen to the prayer of our sister, man.
Mm-hmm.
She's in real mourning, man. She went into her chambers and really went one-on-one with the Most High. And she says she's begging and pleading to the Lord, man, for her people. Nowadays, man, these knucklehead sisters out there in the world, man, they can give a damn about their kids. They dropping them off for Big Mama. They leave them in the car in 100-degree weather, selling them in child trafficking and all kind of matters. Man, this sister was like, man, I'm down for my people all the way to the end. And she's praying to the Most High. Go ahead.
Verse 4, for my danger is in mine hand. From my youth up, I have heard in the tribe of my family that thou, O Lord, tookest Israel from among all people, and our fathers from all their predecessors, for a perpetual inheritance, and thou hast performed whatsoever thou didst promise them.
So she knew all the history that went down. Didn't the Most High say Jacob is a lot of his inheritance? So she knew that our people was the chosen. She said all her predecessors and her forefathers beforehand taught her and told her, you know, all throughout these particular captivities, at least that understanding was always clear. Go ahead.
Verse 6.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have sinned before thee. Therefore hast thou given us into the hands of our enemies, because we worship their gods. O Lord, thou art righteous. Nevertheless, it satisfied them not.
See, didn't we see that last night too?
Did.
What happened with the priest that sat up there and made sacrifices in front of Nicanor and said, hey, Bo, you know, we done made the sacrifices, what'd he do? Still shamed him, man, slapped him around, embarrassed him and all of that. See, that's why we're saying that there's no compromising with these people. You can't compromise with the beast. You can't try to negotiate. You can't try to, you know, pay your way out, brown nose your way out this thing, man, because he's still going to devour you at the same time. See, our people be thinking you can coon your way out of it, man, and think you can go hide in the corner and maybe the beast might not see you or sniff you out. He's still going to eat you and devour you. So you can't negotiate with him. They sat back and said, man, we follow that. We worship their gods and everything, and they still came down on us. Read on.
Nevertheless, it satisfied them not that we are bitter captivity, but they have stricken hands with their idols. Verse 9, that they will abolish the thing that thou with thy mouth hast ordained, and destroy thine inheritance, and stop the mouth of them that praise thee, and quench the glory of thy house and of thine altar, and open the mouths of the heathen to set forth the praises of the idols, and to magnify a fleshly king forever. O Lord, give not thy scepter unto them that be nothing, and let them not laugh at our fall, but turn their device upon themselves, and make him an example that hath begun this against us.
See, she had a sincere prayer to the Lord, man. She had no problem praying for the downfall and the destruction of her enemy. Go ahead.
Remember, O Lord, make thyself known in time of our affliction, and give me boldness, O King of the nations and Lord of all power.
Drop down, read verse 16, so we can see exactly what else she was dealing with.
Verse 16. Thou knowest my necessity.
Now remember, this was a necessity that she was going through this. That she actually had to go out there in that pageant, won, and had to be the queen to to this heathen. She said this was a necessity that she was put in. This was an affliction for her. Go ahead.
Thou knowest my necessity, for I abhor the sign of my high estate.
She said she hated being the queen. That wasn't glorious. She didn't want nothing to do with this. But she said it was a necessity. She seen why the Most High put her in that position. Go ahead.
Which is upon mine head in the days wherein I showed myself, and that I abhor it as a menstruous rag.
She said it was as bad as her menstrual, like coming every month. She despised it, like, oh, it's about to come up. I feel, oh, spotting, uh-oh. That was how bad she was feeling every day, that she had to sit in that man's face, sit in his court, put on his garments, wear that damn crown. She didn't want nothing to do with it. This is why it's a great thing that this sister, man, she put herself on the line for Israel and went through hell just for it. You know, you got these sisters now, man, they out here sugar daddy and the man was a sister in big time, rapid, sell out. She was from Connecticut. Sugar daddy online, found her some little Edomite.
Oh, wow.
Wound up dead of a overdose or something, and the Edomites walking free. Right. They ain't even questioning him. But then you look at the damn profile, she been combing the streets looking for a little white zaddy to pay her damn bills, and now next year, you got exactly what you look for. Yeah. Wicked ass damn heathen that killed you.
Police stuff. He knew some officers or something.
Yeah. He had some law enforcement relationship that they basically said, oh, it was an accidental overdose. She had a cocktail of drugs. Well, where the hell she get them from? Why is he not being questioned? Right. But you know how that goes. But nowadays we see a sister that's in back in the day, man, Esther put in that position, she said she despised it. She abhorred it like a menstruous rag. Go ahead.
And that I wear it not when I'm private by myself.
She said, man, she throws off them damn Persian to me garments, and she throwing on her right clothes. She said, man, I don't like this crap. Go ahead.
Verse 17, and that thine handmaid have not eaten at Haman's table.
And she said, I'm not eating at Haman's table, man. That dude's wicked as hell. He's a devil, and he's one of the of the nation and the people that the Most High said he has a perpetual hatred for. She said, I'm not selling out for that either. Go ahead.
And that I have not greatly esteemed the king's feast, nor drunk the wine of the drink offerings. Neither hath thine handmaid any joy since the day that I was brought hither to this present, but in thee, O Lord, Yahweh of Abraham, O thou mighty power above all. Hear the voice of the forlorn, and deliver us out of the hands of the mischievous, and deliver me out of my fear.
Oh, you know what? I meant to read verse 15 too. Back up to verse 15. There was a part I missed.
Okay. Drop down. Thou knowest all things, O Lord. Thou knowest that I hate the glory of the unrighteous.
She knew it was okay to hate. Those Most High said, man, hate the evil, love the good, all of that. She said, how I hate the glory of the unrighteous. But watch this. Go ahead.
And abhor the bed of the uncircumcised and of all the heathen.
You see that? She said, I hate when I got to get in bed with this damn uncircumcised heathen. I abhor the bed. So that was down there like rape. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
You gotta lay in the bed and hear this damn uncircumcised heathen. He breathing all over you, rubbing himself all over, laying with you.
Damn
And
beast.
she like, I hate this. I gotta fake it, and I gotta,
Right.
Lord.
Unwilling.
And if this all means that I can get favor so that my people can be delivered, then so be it. I gotta ride it out. Jump over. What you got?
No, that's it.
Oh, okay. Jump over to let's go back over into the other books in chapter. We're gonna go back again, but let's read verse. I want to read chapter 6, and let's start at verse 1.
Book of Esther, chapter 6 and verse 1 in the scriptures. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king of Ahasuerus. And the king said, what honor and dignity hath been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him. And the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him.
Now imagine that. So, previously Mordecai saved the king's life. It was spoken about that there was a hit in the plot that was planned on him. Mordecai spoiled it. He told the two chamberlains that they were going to try to do harm on him. The king said, man, this was a great thing, man. Who's his brother Mordecai? Did anybody help him out? Did anybody do anything for him? They said, no, we ain't do nothing for that nigga. He's a damn Jew. He's a rebellious one. And he's saying, no, that ain't right. This man just saved my life. He didn't have to do that. And now here comes Haman sliding on there and getting ready to talk about how he's prepared the gallows to kill Mordecai. So he's going to be in for a rude awakening when he speaks of that name and tells the king of what he wanted to do to him. Go ahead.
Verse 5, and the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself?
Look at the arrogancy of the white man. He said, but ain't nobody greater than me. You talking about me? The king getting ready to bless me. Ooh, he brought me all the way in here, man, so he can bless me. Go ahead.
And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought which the king uses to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set up on his head.
Oh man, so Haman's eyes bugged out. He's drooling, the pride and the puffed up nature of the so-called white man. He up there like, oh, he's giving me the crown royal. He's giving me the damn robe. I'm getting ready to be paraded as the next king. I'm going to be his successor. I think I'm about to. Little does he know. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on the horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Then the king said to Haman, make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew.
He said, what? The damn Jew? Not me? Go ahead.
That sitteth at the king's gate, let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken, that he has spoken.
He said, man, everything I said, if nothing better fail, you better find Mordecai my man,
My man.
and make sure he's got this crown. He's got he's riding on the horse. He's got the royal apparel on. I want you put it on him too. You know, Haman probably said,
you everything that you said, I want on Mordecai.
Right. You know, his heart was broke.
His heart was broke.
And y'all can read because I meant to read it, but I missed it. In this is Esther chapter 12. 1-6 tells you about how Mordecai found out the plot that the assassination of the king was underway, and how he saved himself and, as we'll see, his people. So now Mordecai is getting anointed. He's getting ready to be the next, the one that the Most High chose to be. Read verse 11 again. You know,
verse 11.
Mordecai, hot as hell. I mean, not hot. Mordecai, Haman.
What?
He said, man, and nothing I'm telling you better fail either.
Right. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighted to honor.
Look at that. So now we're seeing, remember, we're going back to Proverbs 19:12, man. You get the favor of the king, you can get it all.
Yeah.
Drop down chapter 7, read verse 1. 1 down to verse 6.
So the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom.
So he still hasn't had enough, you know. He's sitting back saying, another feast. Esther, what do you want? Meanwhile, you know, we just got the reading. In her head, she's saying, I just want the hell out of here. I'm sick of even smelling. I'm sick of smelling your breath. I'm sick of looking at you every damn day. I don't want to go back. But she got to, anything, you know, she got to put on the whole front.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight.
And she knows she got it.
Yeah.
She got to play the right.
If
I found favor in your sight, king. Dirty mother. Go ahead.
O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request.
She said, just spare my life and my people. So, you know, the king is like, what? Well, your life? Go ahead.
For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed.
Remember beforehand, she prayed for the Most High to help her speak eloquently. So now she said, now's the time. I got to go ahead and let the Spirit of the Lord just control my tongue and speak.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
To be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Then the king of Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he and where is he that durst presume in his heart to do so?
So he said, name him where and who. What? My queen?
And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman.
She said, hey, the Satan over there, the devil right there, the enemy is Haman right there.
Right there.
You know, he took that big gulp.
Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen.
So, you know, he's shaking right now. He might have to be excused to go use the restroom, but go ahead.
Verse 7, and the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther, the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king.
Oh, so now he's begging for mercy. Now he's saying, oh, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. I didn't know they was related. I didn't know that the Jews were, you know, white man always kind of come up with all these wild excuses, man, fake apologies and all of that. Go ahead.
Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine. And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. Then said the king, will he force the queen also before me in the house? As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face.
You know, dramatic ass heathen, man. You know, he falling all on the bed. Master, please, no. No, please. He told man, stand up. What's wrong with you, man? Gagged him and took him out. Now drop down, read verse 10. We'll get right
Verse
to the
10.
point.
So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai.
So he got strung up and hung on them same gallows that he prepared for Mordecai. He got put to death.
Then was the king's wrath pacified.
Now the king said, okay. He looked at Esther. Esther was probably smiling, showing her teeth. It was like, yeah, that's right. He said, okay. He said, all right, my queen is happy now. I'm good now. Okay. Drop down in chapter 8 and read verse 1 and 2.
Verse 1. On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman the Jews' enemy unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. So
now he was giving the king the ring of the king, which is like a signet of rulership, basically anointing him to be a prince and a ruler in this particular area in Shushan the palace. So now he's taking the place of Haman. Remember, Haman was second in command. He was known as the wise man. You know. Now who is the king resorting to? Ain't no different than what Joseph, you know what I'm saying? And Daniel. Hey, damn, he didn't always want a Jake next to him so they can continue on in their rulership. This is why now we're backing away. Got to tell our people, man, stop voting for slow Biden. Stop voting for. Stop trying to get them our wisdom. Because all they're going to use is to use it against us. Go
ahead. Verse 3. And Esther spake again before the king and fell down at his feet and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite.
Oh, she was batting them eyes and, teared up a little bit. He was irresistible. He's going to do whatever she said at that point.
And his device that he had devised against the Jews. Then the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king and said, if it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews, which are in all the king's provinces.
So, first part of the mission was get rid of Haman. Mission accomplished. Him and his family all got put to death. Right. Next was to save our people. So now she went in and proposed to him that same decree that was out, because remember, it was already sent out. And it was 11 months before it had to be completed. So this is traveling. That's how long it had to take to get from India all the way to Ethiopia for everybody to get the word. So as it's in transition, she wants to stop it and saying, hold on, we still got some time left. Can we reverse this before everybody's after us and trying to kill us? Go ahead.
Verse 6. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Mm-hmm. Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews. Write ye also for the Jews, as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring.
He said, whatever you want to say, you write it, seal it with my ring. It's solidified. Save your people. Go ahead.
For the writing which is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring, may no man reverse.
So once it was written and sealed, it was a done deal. Drop down and read verse 17. So they not only, put out this decree to reverse it, but it was also included in there that if anybody stepped to us, put them to death. Anybody that came against the Jews, you would become now an enemy, not only the Jews, but of the king. Drop down, read verse 17.
Esther 9:17. And in every province and in every city whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came.
So in all 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia, they all got this word. And they heard what? Go ahead.
The Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day. And many of the people in the land became Jews.
Uh-oh, they said, well, if we can't beat them, join them.
Join.
We'll convert. We'll figure our way out. Those strange laws and that malicious whole stuff that we was heard about before. I think we can do that.
We can deal with it.
We can follow along with that. Yeah. That doesn't sound so bad. No more pork. Okay, I can do that. No more fornication. I think I can do that. That's okay. Sodomy. Oh, the hell with that. They changed up real quick. Got rid of all their idols and everything.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For the fear of the Jews fell upon them.
Right. And see, that's what it's going to be about fear, especially in these days now.
Yeah.
And in this kingdom to come, when they come in, they coming in under the fear. It's not because they love us.
Right.
Because you ain't got no choice. You either going to, the big questions are with fear or respect. Well, obviously the Most High say fear is better, because the Most High said the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. The fear of the Jews is what's going to get these other nations right. I'll take the fear.
I'll take the fear.
I'll take the fear. Because that's how they're going to come in. Look what happened during Egypt when they said the little mixed multitude came along. They seen the destruction, man, 10 plagues, and how the Most High delivered us. And they said, man, the power of the universe is with y'all.
With y'all.
And can we come along? So, yeah, pick up them crates over there. Pick up all that silver and that gold. Pick up them clothes and grab it and hurry up.
Yeah.
And keep up. And then they only lasted for so long, they ended up all getting destroyed in the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
So, how long they lasted, who knows? But we see that there's a record of people clinging to the children of Israel when they see that the Most High is with us.
Mm-hmm.
Drop down, read verse or chapter 9 verse 1. And read down to 3.
Esther 9:1. Now, in the 12th month, that is month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had ruled over them that hated them.
Isn't that what we hoping for and praying for right now?
Yes.
We want rule over them that hate us too. That's why when the Most High said, man, there's nothing new under the sun. There's going to be rule over them. I mean, didn't it? Hold on, give me Revelation 2:20. 25?
He's going to flip the script.
Right.
Big time.
I mean, the heathen, the damn churches and all of that, and the apologists. I mean, what are they talking about? Revelation 2:26.
And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations.
So that's part of the kingdom. That's part of the hierarchy. There is going to be a rank in the system that's going to be put in place, that the children of Israel and whoever overcometh and keep the works unto the end is going to have power over the nations. So as we're reading here, when it says that the Jews are going to have rule over them that hated them, that's power over the nations.
Yeah.
That ain't the first time that we was able to do that. We're getting it back again. That's setting things back in order. That's how the Most High wants it. Go ahead. Back to Esther 9 and verse 2.
Verse 2. The Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king of Ahasuerus, to lay hand on such as sought their hurt. And no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people.
It said, man, the Jews they was out there looking. So the Jews gathered themselves together in the cities throughout all the provinces to King Ahasuerus to lay hands. He said, man, we ain't waiting. We out looking for it. Who wants some? Oh, yeah, these are fringes. That's right. This is my beard. Yeah, I'm the real Jew.
You got something to say?
Right. Where do I sign up at? They said, man, we looking for anybody trying to do us harm.
Right.
Go ahead.
For the fear of them fell upon all people, and all the rulers of the provinces and the lieutenants and the deputies and officers of the king helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them.
Drop down, read verse 10. So they knew Mordecai was a shot caller. They knew that the Jews had carte blanche as far as anybody that came up against you, anybody that dared to collect on that decree, put them to death, and you're exonerated. That's just what it is. So now they said that all the deputies, officers, and anybody that was in alignment with the king, because Mordecai was the next in line, they said, do whatever they say. Drop down, read verse 10.
Verse 10, the 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the enemies of the Jews, slew they.
So all the Haman seed line, man, they all got put to death. Go ahead.
But on the spoil laid they not their hand.
Mm-hmm.
On that day, the number of those that were slain in Shushan the palace was brought before the king. And the king said unto Esther the queen, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan the palace, and the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. Or what is thy request further? And it shall be done. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also according to this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows.
And that's justice.
God.
I mean, isn't historically the greatest lynching under I think it was under Abraham Lincoln, man. I think he had lynched like 40 something Native Americans publicly. I got to get the right number, but I'll get it before it's all said and done. But here they are talking about killing the 10 of his sons. They all got hung up, and that's a tragic. These white men got killed by some black men lynching white men. Man, please. Public displays of lynching, man. How many times they did that to us? And you're talking about the greatest massacre of lynching was done by the so-called white men that killed Native Americans? Get out of here.
Remember that book, 100 Years of Lynching?
Oh, I remember that book.
Yeah.
See,
all brother, 100 years.
100 years. And they talking about 10? Please. That's light work. Drop down, read verse 18.
Verse 18.
Let me find that.
But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th day thereof, and on the 15th day of the same they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another.
So this is customarily what we were doing, sending portions. We were sharing. We was exchanging gifts. It said this was a good day, 14th day of a month of Adar. This is the 12th month, which is today, according to our calculations of the Hebrew calendar. And it was a day of gladness and feasting. We're supposed to be enjoying. We're looking and seeing at a true victory that happened within our nation, man. Our sister put her life on the line, her body on the line, her virtuosity on the line, had her cousin look out for her. We seen an exactment of revenge. We seen the heathen getting put into captivity, getting lynched and hung. We're seeing that we're actually being lifted up into a higher estate where the nations are now in subjection to us. So now we're seeing a great day that the Lord said we're to acknowledge. Go ahead.
Verse 20. And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, both nigh and far, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar and the 15th day of the same yearly, as the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day.
That's right.
That they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor.
So if we're looking at it just from this perspective, just look at our day today. You starting off with sorrow, you got to change the joy from mourning into a good day. We all stressing, struggling, getting here, trying to make sure we, enjoying it. Now we can rest. That's why I said at the beginning of the other class. Now we can exhale. We made it. Now we can go ahead and exhale and enjoy ourselves. And look at the history and see how great a time that our people had when it came down to these feasting days. Drop down and read verse 20. Oh, you can read 23 and 24.
Verse 23. And the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them, because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast pur, that is the lot, to consume them and to destroy them.
Right. That was that's what it was. 1862. The U.S. War, Dakota War. The federal government hanged 38 members of the Dakota tribe in Minnesota. That was that's the one I was talking about. 38-10. I mean, hey,
Right.
please give me a break. Give me a break. Was that it of 24?
That was it.
Okay, drop down, read 26 down to 28.
Verse 26. Wherefore they call these days Purim, after the name of Pur. Therefore, for all the words of this letter and of that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, the Jews ordained and took upon them and upon their seed and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing and according to their appointed time every year.
So now, this is one thing I want to bring out before we close out. And this is why it's dangerous when we allow the damn heathen into our culture and our ways. Everybody got your phones. Rob, you can share the screen and put in Purim and look at images. You've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
The fake Jews say that Purim is a queer day and it's for the sodomites.
What?
And over there in Israel, they're parading around dressed as women and drag, and they got their rainbow flags on. They say that Purim was about it's about coming out.
Oh, please.
Because Esther was hiding her true feelings and how bad she didn't like being there, and she had to approach. And this is from one particular reporter, one story that they say and why they do that. She had to come out of the closet to express her true feelings to Ahasuerus and end up finding favor. But they twist the whole damn thing into a damn sodomite festival.
Wow.
Do you see that on there? On the computer? Have you found it? So share it on the screen. If y'all can just look it up on your own time. You look it up in Google Images and you put up Purim, and the first things you're gonna see is some damn sodomites parading in the damn streets in Israel, and they talking about it's a queer festival now, and all of that. And see that's why you can't get a damn heathen no inches, and they can't partake in none of this, man, to the kingdom. All kind of they completely just defiled the whole dang thing. So now when we're celebrating it, anybody that's on the outside looking in, they can use it as ammunition. Say, y'all celebrate them gay days and all that.
No, you celebrate.
Come on.
We celebrate.
Give me let me close it with Psalm 7 and 11. See, if y'all check that out, man, it's ridiculous.
Praise.
So what happens, man, when the damn heathen is in?
Yeah.
Let me see. Here go one right here. Times Israel.
Hurry up.
Y'all can see the little girls out there. We're going to turn up in a minute. It ain't time yet. I love it when you call me. See, look, this is just one picture. You see him?
Damn.
That was gay ass damn heathen, man. Read that Psalm 7 and 11, man. We're going to close out.
With Psalm 7 and 11. They just distorted and verse 11, chapter 7. God judges the righteous. God judges the righteous, and God is angry with the wicked every day.
That's right. Most High, look at this. He said, man, they add more fuel to the flames. Once the Most High judges them, man, now you see why he said, man, he hates Amalek. Like, he got a perpetual hatred with them, man, to forever, because look what they do. Hijack the culture, hijack the law, hijack the holy days, and then defile them. And they adding applesauce into their Passover. I mean, ridiculous stuff. So the Most High said, man, he's angry every day, man. So this is fuel to the fire, man. Stay lit with that flame of righteousness and truth and the laws and the commandments. We're going to close out with that, man. We're going to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High. Blessings.